Okay, here we go. Welcome back. We are starting Act 3, Scene 3 of Othello. It's a long one, so I'm going to break it in half. We'll stop about halfway through. I have a lot to say, of course, a lot of lines to point out. So let's get started.
Scene 3. Cyprus, the garden of the castle. Enter Desdemona, Cassio, and Emilia.
Be thou assured, good Cassio, I will do all my abilities in thy behalf.
Good madam, do. I warrant it grieves my husband as if the cause were his.
Oh, that's an honest fellow. Do not doubt, Cassio, but I will have my lord and you again as friendly as you were.
Bounteous madam, whatever shall become of Michael Cassio, he's never anything but your true servant.
I know it. I thank you. You do love my lord. You have known him long, and be you well assured he shall in strangeness stand no farther off than in a politic distance.
Aye, but lady, that policy may either last so long, or feed upon such nice and waterish diet, or breed itself so out of circumstance, that, I being absent, and my place supplied, my general will forget my love and service.
Do not doubt that. Before Emilia here, I give thee warrant of thy place. Assure thee, if I do vow a friendship, I'll perform it to the last article. My lord shall never rest. I'll watch him tame and talk him out of patience. His bed shall seem a school, his board a shrift. I'll intermingle everything he does with Cassio's suit. Therefore be merry, Cassio, for thy solicitor shall rather die than give thy cause away.
Madam, here comes my lord.
So what's Desdemona saying here? Basically, she says to Cassio, listen, I will definitely advocate for you. I will talk to Othello. I will talk to him morning, noon, and night. I will talk to him over dinner. I will talk to him in the bedroom. This is not necessarily a good thing, right? But she is very innocent and wants to do everything she can to get Cassio back in Othello's good graces. In the next few lines coming up, there's stage direction that says Othello and Iago enter at a distance, and they're watching Cassio and Desdemona speak, and that's important because Iago is going to plant a couple of seeds saying, I don't really like the way they're standing so close together. Was that Cassio? Were they talking? What is he doing here? And Iago in this act, as well as, the rest of the play, is very good at planting those seeds of doubt. He doesn't really say a lot, he suggests a lot, he's very manipulative, he plays everyone, and he knows how to play on everyone's weaknesses.
Madam, I'll take my leave.
Why stay and hear me speak?
Madam, not now. I am very ill at ease, unfit for mine own purposes.
Well, do your discretion.
Exit Cassio. Enter Othello and Iago.
I like not that.
What dost thou say?
Nothing, my lord, or if I know not what.
Was not that Cassio parted from my wife?
Cassio, my lord? No, sure, I cannot think it. That he would steal away so guilty like seeing you coming.
I do believe 'twas he.
How now, my lord? I have been talking with a suitor here, a man that languishes in your displeasure.
Who is it you mean?
Why, your lieutenant, Cassio. Good my lord, if I have any grace or power to move you, his present reconciliation take. For if he be not one that truly loves you, that errs in ignorance and not in cunning, I have no judgment in an honest face. I prithee, call him back.
Went he hence now?
Ay, sooth, so humbled that he hath left part of his grief with me, to suffer with him. Good love, call him back.
Not now, sweet Desdemon, some other time.
But shall it be shortly?
The sooner, sweet, for you.
Shall it be tonight at supper?
No, not tonight.
Tomorrow dinner, then?
I shall not dine at home. I meet the captains at the citadel.
Why then, tomorrow night, or Tuesday morn, on Tuesday noon or night, on Wednesday morn. I prithee, name the time, but let it not exceed 3 days. In faith he is penitent, and yet his trespass in our common reason, save that they say the wars must make examples out of their best, is not almost a fault to incur a private check. When shall he come? Tell me, Othello, I wonder in my soul what you would ask me, that I should deny or stand so murmuring on. What, Michael Cassio, that came a-wooing with you, and so many a time when I have spoke of you dispraisingly, hath taken your part, to have so much to do to bring him in. Trust me, I could do much.
just get a little bit of information here about Cassio and Othello. Cassio was basically Othello's wingman when he was wooing Desdemona, and she even says, listen, there were a couple of times that I didn't really speak so highly of you, and Cassio always stood up for you, and he always defended you. And I'm doing the same for him now, she says. So we just get a little bit of a history that makes us understand that Cassio and Othello were definitely very good friends in the past.
Prithee, no more. Let him come when he will. I will deny thee nothing.
Why, this is not a boon. 'Tis as I should entreat you wear your gloves, or feed on nourishing dishes, or keep you warm, or sue to you to do a peculiar profit to your own person. Nay, when I have a suit wherein I mean to touch your love indeed, it shall be full of poise and difficult weight, and fearful to be granted.
I will deny thee nothing. Whereon I do beseech thee, grant me this, to leave me but a little to myself.
Shall I deny you? No. Farewell, my lord.
Farewell, my Desdemona. I'll come to thee straight.
Emilia, come. Be as your fancies teach you. Whatever you be, I am obedient.
Exit with Emilia.
Excellent wretch, perdition catch my soul, but I do love thee, and when I love thee not, chaos is come again.
So it's kind of an important line for a couple of reasons. The first is that really at this point in the act, Othello is still very devoted to Desdemona. He says, I will deny thee nothing. Yes, he can come see me. Perdition catch my soul, but I do love thee. And when I love thee not, chaos is come again. And that is a little bit of a foreshadowing for us. The audience would have recognized that as foreshadowing. Again, Act 3 is a really pivotal act as far as the characters starting to change. But at this point, Othello is still really devoted to and loyal to and believes in Desdemona.
My noble lord,
What dost thou say, Iago?
did Michael Cassio, when you wooed my lady, know of your love?
He did, from first to last. Why dost thou ask?
But for a satisfaction of my thought, no further harm.
Why of thy thought, Iago?
I did not think he had been acquainted with her.
Oh, yes, and went between us very oft.
Indeed.
Indeed, aye, indeed. Discernest thou aught in that? Is he not honest?
Honest, my lord.
Honest, aye, honest.
My lord, for aught I know.
What dost thou think?
Think, my lord?
Think, my lord. By heaven, he echoes me, as if there were some monster in his thought too hideous to be shown.
So yet again, Iago isn't saying anything at all. In fact, he's just echoing what Othello is saying. But that, of course, gives Othello pause and makes him think, what are you not telling me, right? This is, again, really basic human nature. We wonder sometimes, are people keeping things from us? Are they telling us little white lies? Is there something else we should know?
Thou dost mean something. I heard thee say even now thou likest not that when Cassio left my wife. What didst not like? And when I told thee he was of my counsel in my whole course of wooing, thou criedst indeed, and didst contract and purse thy brow together, as if thou then hadst shut up in thy brain some horrible conceit. If thou dost love me, show me thy thought.
My lord, you know I love you.
I think thou dost, and for I know thou art full of love and honesty, and weighest thy words before thou givest them breath. Therefore these stops of thine fright me the more. For such things in a false disloyal knave are tricks of custom, but in a man that's just, they are close delations working from the heart that passion cannot rule.
For Michael Cassio, I dare be sworn I think that he is honest.
I think so too.
Men should be what they seem, or those that be not, would they might seem none.
And of course, this is a terribly ironic line, right? Because in the very first act of the entire play, Iago says, I am not what I am. And of here, he's saying to Othello, men should be what they seem, right? Everyone, we should be able to take at face value. People should be exactly as they appear to be. Again, total dramatic irony, because Iago is just the opposite of that.
Certain men should be what they seem.
Why, then, I think Cassio's an honest man.
Nay, yet there's more in this. I prithee speak to me as to thy thinkings, as thou dost ruminate, and give thy worst of thoughts the worst of words.
Good my lord, pardon me. Though I am bound to every act of duty, I am not bound to that all slaves are free to. Utter my thoughts? Why, say they are vile and false. As, where's that whereunto foul things sometimes intrude not? Who has a breast so pure, but some uncleanly apprehensions keep leets and law days, and in session sit, with meditations lawful?
Thou dost conspire against thy friend Iago, if thou but think'st him wronged, and makest his ear a stranger to thy thoughts.
I do beseech you, though I perchance am vicious in my guess, as I confess, it is my nature's plague to spy into abuses, and of my jealousy shape faults that are not, that your wisdom yet, from one that so imperfectly conceits, would take no notice, nor build yourself a trouble out of his scattering and unsure observance. It were not for your quiet, nor your good, nor for my manhood, honesty, or wisdom to let you know my thoughts.
What dost thou mean?
Good name, in man and woman, dear my lord, is the immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse, steals trash. 'Tis something, nothing. 'Twas mine, 'tis his, and has been slave to thousands. But he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him, and makes me poor indeed.
Yet again, an example of dramatic irony, again coming from the mouth of Iago, because if you remember, at the end of Act 2, Iago says to Cassio, reputation, don't worry about it. People get it without deserving it. People lose it without deserving it. You don't need to worry about it. Here, of course, he's saying to Othello, good name is everything. Name is everything. Iago knows exactly how to play every character in the play. He's very, very smart, which again comes back to why he feels so insulted at being named the Ancient at the beginning of this play, because he really is obviously very clever and very, very strategic.
By heaven, I'll know thy thoughts.
You cannot, if my heart were in your hand, nor shall not, whilst 'tis in my custody.
Ha!
Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on.
All right, that's probably one of the classic lines from this play. Beware, my lord, of jealousy, the green-eyed monster that doth mock the meat it feeds on. It's such a great description of jealousy. If you hear jealousy referred to as the green-eyed monster, which we still do today, this is where it comes from. Shakespeare coined the phrase. It comes out of Iago's mouth. And it really is such a great description, because if you think about it, when we're jealous, that's never a good emotion, right? It laughs at us even as it eats us up inside. And of course, Iago's saying, I really, really hope you aren't jealous.
That cuckold lives in bliss, who, certain of his fate, loves not his wronger. But, oh, what damned minutes tells he o'er, who dotes, yet doubts, suspects, yet strongly loves.
Oh, misery.
Poor and content is rich, and rich enough. But riches finless is as poor as winter to him that ever fears he shall be poor. Good heaven, the souls of all my tribe defend from jealousy.
Why is this? Thinkest thou I'd make a life of jealousy, to follow still the changes of the moon with fresh suspicions? No, to be once in doubt is once to be resolved. Exchange me for a goat when I shall turn the business of my soul to such exsufflicate and blown surmises matching thy inference. 'Tis not to make me jealous to say my wife is fair, feeds well, loves company, is free of speech, sings, plays, and dances well. Where virtue is, these are more virtuous. Nor from mine own weak merits will I draw the smallest fear or doubt of her revolt, for she had eyes, and chose me. No, Iago, I'll see before I doubt. When I doubt, prove. And on the proof, there is no more but this, away at once with love or jealousy.
So this is an important speech for a couple of reasons. The first is that Othello is still very devoted to Desdemona. He says very clearly to Iago, I'm not jealous. I have no reason to be. I'm not worried about it. She chose me. And then he also mentions this idea of wanting proof, which we're going to hear over and over again. I want to see it. I want proof. If I have something to be jealous about, I want, something concrete. Otherwise, I'm not going to make a life of jealousy. He still is a great speaker at this point. He's a great orator, and he's very, very clear about how he feels.
I'm glad of it, for now I shall have reason to show the love and duty that I bear you with franker spirit. Therefore, as I am bound, receive it from me. I speak not yet of proof. Look to your observe her well with Cassio. Wear your eye, thus, not jealous nor secure. I would not have your free and noble nature out of self-bounty be abused. Look to it. I know our country disposition well. In Venice they do let heaven see the pranks they dare not show their husbands. Their best conscience is not to leave undone, but keep unknown.
Dost thou say so?
She did deceive her father, marrying you. And when she seemed to shake and fear your looks, she loved them most.
So a couple of things here, right? Iago is very clever. He, of course, doesn't have any proof because there's nothing going on, but he just plants enough seeds, right? He says to Othello, look at your wife, watch her with Cassio. Why are they spending so much time together? And he also reminds Othello that she basically lied to her father when she eloped with Othello. And if you remember, there's a line that Brabantio says in Act 1 that basically says she has deceived her father and may be, and that really will come back to haunt Othello and all of us watching this action unfold on the stage.
And so she did.
Why, go to then. She that so young could give out such a seeming, to seal her father's eyes up close as oak, he thought 'twas witchcraft. But I am much to blame. I humbly do beseech you of your pardon for too much loving you.
I am bound to thee forever.
I see this hath a little dashed your spirits.
Not a jot, not a jot.
Trust me, I fear it has. I hope you will consider what is spoke comes from my love. But I do see you moved. I am to pray you not to strain my speech to grosser issues, nor to larger reach than to suspicion.
I just want to mention at this point that there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of language between both of them about, you know, I love you, I am bound to you, and we hear that quite a few times in Act 2 and Act 3. And I think I had mentioned that this really is, on one level, just about the devotion that Iago is putting on to Othello. You know, he's a soldier in Othello's army. But later on in the act, it kind of changes a little bit, and I just want us to talk about that a little bit later on, that the relationship between Iago and Othello is not really as straightforward as it might first seem to be.
I will not.
Should you do so, my lord, my speech should fall into such vile success which my thoughts aimed not. Cassio is my worthy friend. My lord, I see you're moved.
No, not much moved. I do not think but Desdemona is honest.
Long live she so, and long live you to think so.
And yet, how nature, erring from itself.
And this is the moment that Othello first begins to doubt. And if we're paying really close attention, we in the audience realize this, and we should kind of, you know, have a collective oh no moment happening here, because Othello refers to the idea of it being unnatural for Desdemona to be with him, and we heard that from Brabantio in Act 1, we heard it from Iago, we heard it from Rodrigo. It is not natural for a Venetian lady, you know, of very high standing, high social standing, to be with someone like Othello. He's a Moor, he's a general, he's a wheeling stranger, he's an outsider. It's unnatural. And Othello never bought into that before. And this is the first moment that he does. And this is really the moment that we see Iago first kind of beginning to crack Othello.
Aye, there's the point. As to be bold with you, not to affect many proposed matches of her own clime, complexion, and degree, whereto we see in all things nature tends. One may smell in such a will most rank, foul disproportion, and thoughts unnatural. But pardon me, I do not in position distinctly speak of her, though I may fear her will, recoiling to her better judgment, may fail to match you with her country forms, and happily repent.
Farewell, farewell. If more thou dost perceive, let me know more. Set on thy wife to observe. Leave me, Iago.
Going.
My lord, I take my leave.
Why did I marry? This honest creature doubtless sees and knows more, much more, than he unfolds.
And again, another line where Othello is beginning to doubt his marriage, his love, Desdemona's loyalty. Why did I marry? And again, for us in the audience, this is kind of a horrible moment because we've seen Othello be so devoted and so in love with her, and now all of a sudden he's starting to question it. All right, so we're going to stop right here for a moment, and then we'll be back with the end of scene 3.